A father, husband, and an all-star high school football coach is missing right now, and some of the speculation around his disappearance has sent a small Virginia town reeling. What was supposed to be a triumphant trip to the playoffs has instead turned into a hunt for answers. We're on The Case, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. All right, guys, before we get into this story, let's talk about the free app Upside. It gets you cash back on daily essentials like gas and groceries. It is free and it is easy. I like to use it when I pump gas. I get money back there. Also at convenience stores, fast food places, you can use Upside and get real cash back. After you spend, money appears in your Upside account that you can transfer straight to your bank. So here's what you do. Download the Upside app for free, buy whatever you plan to purchase, pay like you typically would, a debit or credit card, then you file a claim in the app and you get money back. To find out how much you could save with Upside, click the link in the description or scan the QR code on our screen and use promo code OTC to get an extra 25 cents back on every gallon on your first tank of gas. Today we're talking about a major story making national news in Big Stone Gap, Virginia. This is a place that's very much small town USA. I've actually been there. This is a town, it's about 5,000 people. It's tucked into the hills of Appalachia in between the borders of Kentucky and Tennessee. This is an area that for generations has lived off the coal industry. It has several churches, a historical museum, and a high school football team that this season is dominating on the field. The Union High School Bears are undefeated this season, and they're on their way to the Virginia High School League Class II state championship. But right now, overshadowing the team's success on the field is a desperate search for their head coach. 46-year-old Travis Turner was apparently last seen on Thursday, November 20th. This is according to Virginia State Police. Agents from VSP were reportedly en route to Turner's home to talk to him about some sort of active investigation, but they were called off when they learned that Turner wasn't at home. VSP told media outlet News Channel 11 that they were not going to Turner's house to arrest him, but they just wanted to talk to him. But details surrounding why they wanted to speak with Turner is still very murky, and we dug into this story, and here's what we've learned. The Virginia State Police Missing Persons Database lists Turner as an official missing person out of Wise County, Virginia. Now, the info states that he was last seen wearing a gray sweatshirt, gray sweatpants, and glasses. On Friday, the day after Turner vanished, Wise County Public Schools announced that an employee within the district had been placed on administrative leave. They did not identify the person involved, but as you can imagine, there is rampant speculation that it was Coach Turner. The New York Post reports that the district released the following statement, quote, "A staff member has been placed on administrative leave with pay while an external agency reviews an allegation that was reported to the division. This is standard procedure and not a determination of wrongdoing. This situation also involves an active law enforcement matter and the division cannot comment further," end quote. So here's what we know about Coach Turner. We know that he helped actually launch the football program at Union High School in 2011. That happened after two local Wise County schools were consolidated into one. He's been the head coach ever since then, and they've had a lot of success. According to family updates on Facebook, Turner's adult son also helps out on the sidelines. The team's assistant coach, Jay Edwards, has since taken over the coaching duties for the Bears because Coach Turner's missing. On Saturday, despite the worries about what may have happened to Coach Turner just a couple days after he vanished, the Bears continued to win. They shut out their opponent and they advanced to the playoffs. But Virginia State Police's Bureau of Criminal Investigation has had agents combing the area near Turner's home. Now, again, this is part of the country that is very rural, and it's an area where there are a lot of mountains. You're in Appalachia. It's a very difficult place to be able to search if you're looking for one person. The cliche needle in a haystack may apply here. Over the weekend, John Day, who is an agent with Virginia State Police, told News Channel 11 this, quote, "We've had the drones up in the air looking, searching. We tried to get the State Police Aviation, but they were unable to fly yesterday because of the weather. We've had canine units, bloodhounds from local departments, sheriff's office here, and Wise State Police dogs into the woods searching, the local area of last known place where Mr. Turner may have been or had been seen." Authorities have not released any details about their investigation that's allegedly connected to Turner, but social media, it's been on fire with rumors and speculation, and we're going to tell you about some of those rumors online, and these are rumors that you can easily search for on social media, and we want to be clear before we talk about them because these are just rumors at this point, just speculation. They have not been confirmed by police or by investigators. So let's dive into it. According to multiple unconfirmed and unidentified sources, at least 2 teens have accused Turner of inappropriate contact. A social media page called Scanner Food that monitors police dispatch did share audio of deputies searching for someone on Thursday night with reports coming in of a person walking into the woods with a gun. However, there is no confirmation from officials that the person that allegedly went into the woods with a gun was Turner. News Channel 11 reports that Coach Turner's wife wrote in a now deleted Facebook post, quote, "Travis is missing and that's all we know. We love him and need him here with us. Thank you to everyone who has reached out with love and support. It means more than you know. Just keep praying that he comes home." So that was on Friday night, roughly 24 hours after he went missing on Thursday evening. Now, anyone with information about Coach Turner or where he may be is asked to call Virginia State Police, the number 540-444-7788. We also want to be clear, this may be a very small part of Virginia that many people haven't been to, but it's not the first time that there's been a search or a manhunt, depending on how you look at it, for a Big Stone Gap, Virginia resident. Many locals are bringing up the disappearance of a man named Eric Jones after he allegedly murdered his ex-wife. Jones is accused of shooting Janina Jefferson during the Thanksgiving holiday weekend in 2016, and he has never been found. Investigators told News Channel 11 that he ambushed Janina at the town of Appalachia water treatment plant where she was working the night shift alone. He had previously threatened to kill her multiple times, according to the sheriff's office, and Jones has a lengthy criminal record, including a count of attempted murder for hire, as well as firearms and drug charges. Now, while we don't know exactly what's been going on in Coach Turner's life, locals have pointed to Jones's disappearance as proof that it's not hard to disappear into the hills of Appalachia. Joining us now is someone who knows a lot about what it takes to conduct searches like the one that we're seeing play out in Southwest Virginia right now. Billy Lane, private criminal defense investigator, founder of We Are the Essentials, which we'll talk about in just a moment. It's always great to have you on Law and Crime. Based on what we know about Coach Turner and what law enforcement is working with, what stands out to you?
The fact that he left days before law enforcement got there. I think this shows that maybe he was made aware of a potential criminal investigation, maybe from his job, maybe from the school, maybe somebody from the school had called him in to discuss this potential scenario playing out, and maybe he read the writing on the wall and realized that this may be detrimental to his career, to his family life, and he may have taken the opportunity to leave his home and go into the woods.
You know, this happened so it's been 5 days at the time we're recording this. It was Thursday night, November 20th, that he disappeared or was last seen. What does it take for someone, if he's still, and hate to be morbid here, but it's the reality of it, if he's still alive and he's in the woods, I mean, what does it take to survive this long?
Well, people who live in those type of areas understand they camp, hunt up there. A lot of hunters will go out there and just hunt right there in the woods and camp out in the woods. So it really depends on his background. And as an investigator doing through We Are the Essentials search and recovery investigators, we try to meet with the family and talk about these things. You know, how experienced is he in the woods? How experienced is he a hunter? Is he not a hunter? Can he go up there and survive? So there are a lot of things. And then the other question is there any camera footage? I know we say we've seen him go into these wooded or the hill area near his home, but was there any video showing him carrying? Evidently there's some rumors that he might have been carrying a weapon, but was he carrying a backpack? Was he carrying any supplies with him up there? Is there a base camp up there? Is there places where they go hunting that he may be going to and could potentially survive for several days and wait it out to sort of see what happens? I would assume he more likely does not have a phone, or they would be able to ping that, so he may not be off the grid. He may not understand the magnitude of this search that's going on right now for him. He may have no idea. He's just up there, and like you said, this could be not a very nice situation. He could cause self-harm to himself, and that might have already taken place. And we pray not. We pray that he's still in a window of reflection where he's thinking about what's going on and contemplating his life, and maybe law enforcement will be able to locate him before things take a turn for the worst.
Right. And, again, we'll just keep saying, like, he hasn't been officially accused of anything publicly. I mean, we know that there was this investigation that was going on with an employee of the school, but they're not saying it was him. And I know people will hear that and be like, well, obviously it was him, but we don't know, at this point. Maybe there is an explanation for everything. Wise County, Virginia, southwest part of that state, very rural area. These are coal mining towns, kind of tucked into the mountains. How difficult of a search area is it when you're dealing with a landscape like that?
Oh, it's very, very challenging because the elevation alone, you're dealing with mountains where here in Florida, where we are the essentials, we deal with flat land, typically swamps and overgrown wooded areas. Up there, you're dealing with tough terrain. You're dealing with a lot of animals out there, bears and everything else that wants to eat you. So as you can imagine, the law enforcement are utilizing resources such as choppers, drones. But the other issue is that those are great tools. But if you get under brush cover, under trees, and even when using thermal, it's going to be very challenging to locate you. Now, worst case scenario, if he had caused self-harm, there might not be a heat signal coming from the body still to identify, even with the thermal drones or the chopper having a thermal system in it itself. So at that point, you have to go in there on foot. Now, I know that they're using dogs. Dogs are great tools. There again, that's a tool. But to really find people, like we always say, we have to go where others do not go, where others won't go. And in this scenario, he might have gone deep into the woods because he did choose to harm himself, and he does not want anybody to find him. So it could be very challenging. This man appears to be physically fit. He's a coach, athletic coach. More likely could have walked or hiked for miles up in there. And depending on how soon they actually started their search, which was several days into it, appears to be, he had a 2-day lead on them.
Well, and I think too, like very, very different case, but a search in a vast area with really tough terrain. Travis Decker out west, who killed his 3 daughters, but he took his own life. According to the FBI, it took them months to be able to find him, and it's unclear specifically when he took his life, but for a long time, there was part of you that's like, this guy was in the military. Does he just have the tools and the tactics to outrun the FBI and all these different agencies? But he may have just been dead the entire time. How difficult is it to find someone? How difficult is it to find a body compared to someone who may still be alive?
Well, when a person's alive, they're constantly moving. For the most part, when they've taken their life or they're no longer with us, they're not moving. So actually a recovery is much easier than a rescue because that individual is still constantly moving around if they're alive, constantly trying to evade you if they are trying to do that. Brian Laundrie is another one. It took them quite some time to locate his body here in Florida. We were involved, and that was one of our initial searches that we began with. That's how We Are the Essential started. So it's difficult to begin with because you're using lots of resources and you're trying to put together the picture of what's going on here. Not only this could potentially be a criminal investigation because there could be some potential criminal charges here. And I know that they said, oh, we just wanted to talk to him. We weren't there to arrest him. Well, talking is the first portion before the arrest occurs because you're developing probable cause, you're interviewing him. There could have been some things that might have led to an arrest during that talking phase of law enforcement. So I would take that for a grain of salt. I believe that they're trying to present the best case scenario here. And the fact is that this is a small town. And he is a very popular coach, a winning season, So I think that a lot of people look up to him, and this could potentially impact his family life and his career and just totally embarrass him. So you have to wonder what goes through a person's mind at that point. Are they going to lose everything in their life, their family, their career, and potentially their freedom?
Well, and part of it too, there was the scanner traffic, and all of this is unconfirmed. There's a lot of media reports. Just kind of give a disclaimer on that there was a man seen going into the woods that was carrying a gun of some kind. And if the reports are true, where he was the center of this investigation, certainly a small town, everybody knows everybody, this shame, this embarrassment, if he goes out there to hurt himself, that's one part of it. and we don't know his background. We don't know what he's like behind closed doors. The other part of it is, if he was accused of something, is there an anger and he's carrying a weapon and he goes into the woods? I mean, for people who are searching in these types of cases, even if one may seem more probable than the other, like how do you prepare for, and at this point, this is just a missing persons search. It's not a manhunt, but at the same time, you hear that piece of information. What goes through your mind as you're taking part in a search?
Well, you have a potential armed individual in the woods is what you have. And as a law enforcement officer, if you have reason to believe that he may be a suspect in a criminal investigation, now he has a potential to cause harm to law enforcement officers before they get there. And unfortunately, if a person want to harm themselves, they have no reason not to want to harm others, if that makes sense. As a law enforcement officer, you have to consider that. So any self-harm scenarios could be potentially harmful to the officers themselves before that scenario plays out. I would say if he depends on what type of weapon he took into the area, would make a difference in my mind of whether it's a self-harm scenario or if he went up to the woods to barricade himself in to sort of like hold himself out so he wouldn't get in trouble in whatever fantasy he was playing out in his mind that he could actually accomplish this. Would depend on what type of weapon that he took up there, what type of weapons he had available, how many weapons he took. Did he take ammunition? Is there a tent up there? Was he able to maintain some type of base camp up there? And the other thing you have to consider, which I would think would be potentially a high probability, is that these sheriffs and detectives more than likely grew up in that area and more than likely knows this area and more likely hunted up there. They more likely know all about this area. So they are more likely the best type of individuals to go up there and locate him. So there's a lot that has to play out here. These types of searches are searches that we would become involved in because, it's a potential recovery. It's a ground search. But the fact is that potentially there's somebody that might be armed that might have a criminal element to them. So these are all things that are considered when you have to do this, whether you be law enforcement or a search and recovery organization like ourselves.
Because I also think, too, just looking at this landscape and how vast it is, and if he has this head start by 2 days, and his wife had posted it's about 24 hours later, it's a deleted Facebook post just talking about how he was missing at this point. How do you figure out how wide of an area you're looking for someone if the last thing you may know is that he just walked into the woods?
For us, we go on a 2-mile radius. That's where we start at. Anything in a half a mile, no stone is left unturned. Up to 2 miles out. Now, if somebody's athletic, if somebody goes out and runs and walks every day, that's a different story. That could spread out to 3 to 5 miles at that point. So, and the other thing you have to consider is how many days lead do they have on you? This gentleman had 2 days leads on law enforcement. That's a whole different scenario as well. But the unfortunate part is that sometimes when people want to cause harm to themselves, they go to a location where they can feel like nobody will find them, and then they do the deed, unfortunately. Sometimes that's right away. And like I said, sometimes they consider their options at that point. But most of the times, once they build up their motivation, isn't long before they're no longer with us.
How common is it where if things line up with where the speculation is that he was going to be the center of this investigation, there's an embarrassment to him, his family, all of that. I mean, major life crisis for him during a time when he was, seemingly beloved in the community. He'd been the football coach at the school since 2011, and they're, having this great season. How common is it you see this type of life crisis happen that leads to someone disappearing like apparently we're dealing with here?
Well, I think the life crisis here could be a potential for some action on his behalf that led to a criminal investigation or at least a criminal inquiry by law enforcement. This could have been a scenario that played out at his own hands, and we're not aware of that yet. But typically, this could show conscience of guilt. Him leaving and going into the woods and wanting to harm himself shows conscience of guilt. Something to think about. Now, I can't say that in every scenario, but it's something to consider. Would an innocent person run into the woods and go hide or try to harm themselves? Or would they just say, look, I don't know what you're talking about here. You've got the wrong person. and go about your day, go about your life, and go, play football and coach a winning team like you've been doing, and be there for your kids and your players.
Yeah, no, and we'll see how this plays out. Very, sad situation potentially, but maybe there's an explanation for everything. Maybe the speculation's not true. We'll just have to wait and see what officials say. Billy Lane, you are the founder of a group called We Are the Essentials. You do really important work. It's always great to have you on Law and Crime. Talk a little bit about that organization and the work that you do.
So we are a nonprofit based out of Central Florida. We're comprised of former military, law enforcement. We're all licensed private investigators and just regular citizens who want to go out there and do extraordinary deeds for families of missing people for free. We survive on donations. So if God puts it on your heart, please visit wearetheessentials.com, where you can find out more about our story. Through the last 4 years, we have not only recovered the bodies of missing people, but we've rescued individuals who were lost. We've also helped law enforcement recover human trafficking victims. So we are trying to live on purpose and glorify Christ in what we do.
Well, it's always great to have you on Law and Crime, especially in cases like this, very fluid situation playing out in a difficult search area. And again, hopefully there's an explanation for everything. We'll see what law enforcement says. Billy Lane, thank you as always for taking the time to be with us here on Law and Crime. We appreciate it.
God bless.
That will do it for On the Case, presented by Law and Crime. Subscribe to us on YouTube and Spotify. I'm Chris Stewart. We'll see you next time.